You're listening to episode number 96.
Welcome to the Inner Singer Podcast, providing you with tools and techniques that you need to accelerate your singing, your performance, and your inner game beyond what you thought was possible. And now, your host for the Inner Singer Podcast, Mike Goodrich.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the Inner Singer Podcast. This is Mike Goodrich. Today, I would like to pose some thought-provoking ideas to you. This isn't me talking at you. This is me introducing a lot of things that I've been thinking about, working with, and I want to run by some things that might help you, at least give you an opportunity to really mull over some things that you do with regards to singing and see if they land in a positive way, see if they work for you. We've talked a lot lately about energy and the energy that you bring to singing. I want to talk about this today. I had a student of mine just say to me, and it happens often, many students say this, and I have believed this and thought this many times myself. And what she said is, basically, I always wonder if I'm practicing right. And we do. We always wonder, gosh, I'm putting in the time. I want this result. Am I doing this right? And I want to reframe that a little bit, and I want to offer you this based on some of the things that I've been studying, working with, and what have you. And again, food for thought. Run this by your intuition. See if this works for you. See if this reframe is right for you. But the idea is this. All roads lead to Rome. What I mean by that, and I have some examples. What I mean by that is that with the proper energy as you approach singing, if you're coming to it with a positive mindset, so to speak, optimistic, expecting to get better, expecting to do well, the intention of what you want, and you're vibrating, like I said in the last episode, at a higher vibration and really bringing a lot of joy to this and being willing to be surprised and delighted by what happens, right, with the voice, then consider the idea that whatever you do is going to help you. And I'm saying, consider this as an idea. Run this through your intuition and see if this feels right to you. This is what I'm working with lately. And like I say, I have some validation. As an example, my son is 17 and a half now and plays drums and guitar and keyboards, and he's in a band. It's 2 bands, I think. Right now he's starting. And he's starting to sing, and he already sings really, really well. Yes, I'm a proud father. But the point is, he has played me a lot of bands that he likes, and he played me this one particular band. I won't mention their name, but they're a great band. They're not in the real mainstream yet. And he played me Where They Started, a song years ago, and he played me the singer, and I listened to the singer, and the singer was basically just screaming his head off. Very angry kind of scream, and my son's into like a tremendous amount of music, so he doesn't listen to just this, but he really likes their music. And so I'm listening to this guy, and according to modern conventional voice beliefs, right, I would have heard that and said, I would be surprised if this guy could talk in 2 years, much less sing, doing that to his voice. And yet now, 14 years later or so, he played me their new record, and the guy is a fantastic singer. He has developed into a fantastic singer. And there are a lot of examples like that I could give you that are really interesting, and they really pose the question, is it exactly what you're doing, or is it the energy you're bringing to what you're doing? In other words, we're judging this as bad for the voice. But if he is really expressing his joy, even if it's in the form of anger or frustration, but there's something about that is neutral, right? If we don't judge that as bad, and if he's not judging it as bad, but he's looking at it as a positive, expressive thing, that's really all that matters. Is that energy that he's approaching it with actually leading him to the old adage, all roads lead to Rome? Whereas if he was approaching it, I hope I don't hurt myself. Everybody says don't do this. And so he's driving kind of with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, and he's very tentative and he's very worried about it. Could that have led him down a different path to actually damage his voice? Is it the energy that he's approaching these things from, and the energy ultimately that we bring to the party based on our belief systems? For example, another example, you know that, and I just checked this because I wanted to make sure that I was right, because I've heard it many, many times, and from some very highly educated people, even doctors, I think. Trying to remember exactly who, but I wouldn't want to mention their names in case I'm wrong, so I did check this out the best way I could. Pharmaceutical companies, when they're creating a drug or launching a drug, measure its efficacy against a placebo. If it doesn't beat the placebo, they don't follow up on it. If it beats the placebo, oftentimes only by 5%, they continue doing trials, and then they have a few other criteria by which they judge it before they launch it to the public. But can you imagine that? A placebo, in case you don't know, I'm sure you do, but in case you don't, is basically a sugar pill that would look like the medication. And they have two groups. The control group takes the placebo. They don't know it. Nobody knows what they're taking. And the other group takes the actual drug. And then they measure the effects. They measure, does this thing work? So they're actually measuring a pharmaceutical against a sugar pill, against something that has no power to help you whatsoever, except the belief in it. That begs the question, do the things that we take, like supplements, the foods that we eat, are they good for us because they're good for us, or are they good for us because the cultural narrative is such that we believe on such a wide consciousness level that this is good for us? How much of what is affecting us when we take vitamin C is our belief system versus the vitamin C? I'm lactose, supposedly, right? At least I have a belief that dairy is not the best thing for me, right? Well, a lot of people eat dairy, and yes, we could logic that to death and say, well, it's this enzyme and that and all that. But anyway, but what would have developed that, right? Is that just a belief? How much of what we're acting on with our voice, or even in the world, so I'm going a little broad here today just for fun, but like I say, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. This episode, none of my episodes are trying to convince. This episode is not trying to convince you. It's trying to offer you a new way of looking at things. The idea of question everything, right? Instead of just blanketly following something, question, I wonder if this is working because I believe this is working, or is it actually working? If pharmaceutical companies are measuring against a placebo, that's pretty amazing. And if somebody can do categorically everything that you can think of to abuse their voice, and 15 years later sing better than ever, that's weird. That really makes me think. Is it the energy with which they're approaching the act of singing? Or is it actually what they're doing? You know, and of course, I'm a technique teacher too, right? Obviously, I've been doing that for 33 years. So I have all the scales, I have all the arsenal, I have all the things we do. And yes, they get really, really great results. But they get better results if you believe they're going to get good results. Because I've had some people that don't get the results as fast or as profound, or they actually can't do it themselves. They need me. That is a belief. Because my belief is strong enough. I know these things work. I've had enough evidence that they work. And yes, that's a belief system. So I can, based on that belief system, approach these things with incredible confidence, which also helps. Because the consciousness of the teacher, having the belief that these are going to work, is also incredibly beneficial. And if the student has the same belief that, wow, I know these things are going to work, they're probably really going to work. Whereas if the student has the belief, I hope these things work, nothing's ever worked before, I'll give it a try, but I don't think it's going to work. The results probably still going to work, but what I've seen is not necessarily that they don't work, but that the student doesn't get to take advantage of the fact that they are working. They need me to help them find it every week, week in and week out, because they're convinced they can't find it themselves. And I'm proving to them every single week, this works, your voice will do that, but they can't accept it because of their belief system. So this is a quick podcast. I know I threw a lot out there, but that's really the fun for me these days. I've been teaching for a long, long time. I love to get up from behind the piano and talk about things that are life skills in a way that they will help our singing, because that's who I work with right now. I work with singers and have for a long, long time. So when I get these ideas, sometimes I get so excited I can't wait to share them. That's what I did. I'm in between lessons. I just turned on my microphone and my recording software, and here I am showing up talking to you. And again, not trying to convince you, but trying to offer you this reframe of some of the things that we just take for granted, because we are taught in this world from the minute we come into it, we are taught to follow certain things. And from a very young age, between the ages of 0 and 7, our brain is a recording device, taking things in, not editing. It's taking things in like a recording device from our parents, from our teachers, from our friends, from our life, from our environment. And we're trying to make sense of this world. And we make decisions on how to get through this world based on what we're learning then. That's not a real good time to make those life decisions, before we're 7 years old. And then all of a sudden, we've got a plan for how we're going to get through life, what we believe about this and that. And we're barely talking and running around and hardly even in school yet. And we've already made these decisions unconsciously. So my feeling, what I'm doing lately, is pretty much questioning everything, because everything, as they're finding, is boiling down to a belief system. So anyway, a little big, heavy thing today, but just food for thought. All I'm asking you is, don't believe a word I'm saying, but think about it. See if there's a way to reframe. If you ever have the belief, oh, I hope I'm doing this right. I hope I'm practicing right. Oh my gosh, I hope I'm not wasting my time. Reframe that one thing to, all roads lead to Rome. And if I approach my voice with joy and love and acceptance and optimism and a high vibration in a high energy of excitement and really ready to be surprised and delighted by what I'm able to do today, and we stay in that frequency, let's see if that creates the outcome that we want, right? Let's see if the outcome unfolds the way we would prefer, just as an experiment. So let's not be sheeple, right? I love that expression. Let's really think for ourselves, and that includes me. Just because I say it doesn't make it true for you. Run everything through the filter of, is this true for me? Is this just validating a belief system that I already have? Or am I open to maybe this not being true? Maybe it is true. Maybe it isn't true. What's true for me? So anyway, that's what this podcast was all about. Hopefully this gives you some fun things to think about. I actually love thinking about these things. As you can tell, I also love talking about them because it just makes life exciting to have these things unfold and to be questioning things and not take things at their face value. So anyway, that's my invitation to you. I hope you enjoyed this. If you would like what I believe is a great book, get my Fearless Singing book. It's absolutely free. It comes with some absolutely fantastic video bonuses. It talks about mindset, technique, performance. It brings the three of those together so that the synergy of those three things really, really will help you. And the bonus videos are absolutely fantastic. All of this is free. The link will be in the description. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I probably should, but anyway, check the link in the description, click on it, get the book absolutely free. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for being with me. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Inner Singer Podcast. And please share this with all of your singing friends. And head on over to iTunes and subscribe. And if you found it of value, give us a nice rating. Thanks so much.